Hi, everyone, and welcome to the ConTinual Comics Lair and our discussion of the recent movie, The Marvels. And this is your official spoiler alert. We will talk freely about the movie, and if you have not seen the movie and do not want things spoiled for you, you might want to see the movie and come back and watch this panel later. I mean, you can always put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 at certain points, but the problem with that is you won't know when to take your fingers out of your ears. So it's better to watch it and come back. The Comics Lair is sponsored by Heroes Aren't Hard to Find and Heroes Convention. I'm your host, Nancy Northcott. And we'll start with the panelists introducing themselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little about what interested you in this movie enough for you to go see it. Daniel, will you start?
Why not? My name is Daniel Hands. I am as you can tell, British author, historian, game designer, madman. I haven't quite reached alcoholic yet, but I'm working on it. But I'm also a therapeutic counselor in private practice. I use RPGs with clients, and we roll dice and cause mayhem and kill dragons to work through our issues. It's a lot of fun.
And what about this movie drew you to go see it?
It has Kamala Khan in it.
Okay.
How
Andrea?
dare you ask that? I mean, no.
Andrea, what about you?
Hi, my name is Andrea Maldonado. I pronounce it Andrea. If you guys want, you can call me Dre. I wanted to see this movie because of, obviously, it's an all-female led cast. And like he said before, Kamala Khan, I'm a huge fan. And I'm also a huge fan of Monica Rambeau.
Robyn?
Hi, my name is Robyn. I am co-host of the Diversity Issues podcast. What drew me to this movie, in general, a fan of the MCU, so I do enjoy those movies. Similar to Daniel, I love Kamala Khan. I enjoyed her comics very much. I enjoyed her show very much. And I totally get where people are coming from with like hero fatigue, but this movie seemed like it was a lot of fun. It was treading new ground, like Andrea said, with the full female-led cast, and it just looked like a good time. The first Captain Marvel movie was a good time. Miss Marvel's TV show was a really good time. I enjoyed Monica in WandaVision, so there was no reason for me to think that I wouldn't absolutely love this movie, and I did.
David?
A lot of what Robyn said. I love the three lead characters. I was really excited about it. I think I'm the one person who loved Wonder Woman 1984. Sometimes I want a comic book movie to feel like a comic book, and I want it to be fun and colorful, and that's how this movie felt to me. So I was excited to see it. And I should say I'm David R. Slayton. I'm an author. I write fantasy and urban fantasy, white trash warlock, etc. They're behind me.
Okay. Kyoko?
Hi, I am Kyoko M. I'm the author of the Black Parade urban fantasy series and the Of Cinder and Bone science fiction series. I'm also in Black Panther Tales of Wakanda, which is the cover right here, which is a Marvel Comics anthology that I'm in as well. And I have Captain America, The Shield of Sam Wilson will be out in November of this year. As far as the Marvels goes for me, I adored Kamala in the comics. I adored her in the show. It was a no-brainer that I was going to go see this. But also, Monica was a really nice, refreshing character in WandaVision. And I really looked forward to seeing more from her just because I enjoyed how competent, but also how warm she was. And she's got her own distinct personality and a few little hangups here and there, but I thought she was really, really well done. And I absolutely loved the design of her suit that they came up with for this film. I think all the costumes in general in this film were exceptional. But I think that's like a little extra thing that I love on top of it. Not only do I love these characters, but like the look and feel of the film is just so upbeat and fun and just beautiful.
Okay. Bobby?
I am so envious of you, Coco. Sam Wilson is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters.
He's
I'm
awesome.
so excited to read that book.
Mhm.
I'm Bobby Nash. I'm an author. I write a lot of novels. I do a lot of crime thrillers, but I also write sci-fi and horror. I write comic books. I actually started writing comics before I did novels, so I do those quite frequently. I am a longtime comic book fan, and so I am a fan of these three characters from the comics first. I've known Carol Danvers since the '70s, Monica Rambeau since the '80s, and Kamala Khan more recently in the last 20 years. And so I love their comic book versions. I've loved their MCU version, so this was a no-brainer for me. I do enjoy Marvel's cosmic side of things. And I think they've done pretty well with the cosmic stuff, certainly with the Guardians and whatnot as well. And so, yeah, so this was just a no-brainer for me. I love these three characters. I think the actors do them very well. These are the definitive versions of them in my head because these are how I think of hearing them speak now. So, yeah, so I love the characters, and I was I was thrilled to go and no-brainer, and I loved every minute of it.
Well, those of you who are here regularly know that I've been a comics fan since I was 8 years old. I currently write historical fantasy and several different kinds of romance. And with Jeannie Adams, I write the Outcast Station science fiction series. I will always look at a superhero movie that has a female lead. Because when I first started reading comics, you got Wonder Woman. You got the very underrated Rita Elastigirl in Doom Patrol. And you had the Legion of Superheroes, which had strong female characters, especially Saturn Girl, but it wasn't really a female-led book. And I will always look at that. Like Bobby, I've been a fan of Carol Danvers since the 70s. I really just started paying attention to Monica in the comics about 10 years ago. And I haven't watched Kamala Khan because I can't watch everything and I tend to steer away from teenagers. But after having seen this movie, I'm going to have to go back and watch that because, yeah, she was just endearing and wonderful.
Delightful.
In this movie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Her presence. I mean, you believe it. She is.
Yeah, she is Kamala Khan. You know, it's not that she's like her. It's not she's a quality. She is Kamala Khan. It's just
so much to the point where she's actually writing the comics.
She's writing.
Yeah,
the comics.
I was so happy to see that. That is awesome.
They've got so they've just had the first run from her, and they're starting a new one. I think it's in February. Was it? February or March, but yeah.
Well, that is a good point to segue into a question that I have on my list, and we've kind of already dipped our toes in it, which was your favorite character in the movie? So, Andrea, do you mind starting? And I apologize for mispronouncing your name earlier.
No, it's okay. I get it all the time. My favorite character in the movie, besides Goose, I would say it's a tie between Monica and Kamala. For me, I'm Afro-Latina, and I'm a middle school teacher. And the majority of my students for the 5 years that I've been teaching are kids of color, Black and kids of color and Indigenous. And it's very important for them as little kids to see characters that look like them. So as, a teacher of color, seeing Monica and Kamala on screen just made me so proud. Not only did they make me proud, but I thought that they were well written. I thought that they were well executed. And just seeing them interact together, that scene where they were trying to coordinate their powers together and learn to be in step with each other was just so endearing and so special. And I just love to see the sisterhood on screen.
Okay. Robyn, what about you?
My favorites were Kamala's parents. I love them so much, especially her mom. I love a grumpy teddy bear, and that is her mom all day. Like, don't you get hurt. Now go save the world. And the dynamic between her mom and dad, where like her mom's this like grumpy sweetie pie and her dad's like this total goofball. You just see that infused in who Kamala is. And you just see the love between their entire family. And it's just so cute and endearing. I mean, to see. I love it so much.
Okay. David?
Well, I have to echo Robin again. Mrs. Khan all the way. Like when they're having the fight in the house, and when she gives that Kree guy the look.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good thing she doesn't have powers. She would have incinerated him. It was fantastic.
Okay. Kyoko?
I'd have to say with Andrea, I think that it's a tie between Monica and Kamala, just because I think that they really, to me, and personally, they brought something that I felt was missing a little bit in Captain Marvel. I really like Carol, but I felt like I didn't get to know her as well as I would like to. And their inclusion in the story, to me, opened her up a lot more. Like, she seemed to be a little bit more in touch with her feelings, or just being able to face different things. Like when they went through the conflict of why didn't you come home after, all the things that happened, and she felt ashamed of herself and didn't want to come be with her family. And I thought that was a really important theme to have, because a lot of people are like that. It's a very human impulse where you feel guilt or ashamed of yourself, and you don't want to go be around the people that love you because you worry that it'll make them see you in a certain way. So I really enjoyed that dynamic that they had, because to me it really elevated not only just the material itself, but definitely Carol. I think that she was able to show us a lot more of what she is and what she's like, with the two of them being so different. Again, you have Monica, who's a fairly serious person, but very compassionate and very caring. And then you have Kamala, who's just obviously she's sunshine. If sunshine was a person, it's Kamala. And so that's why they really worked for me, is getting to see that things from three such different perspectives, but they all were able to work together and save the day in the end. So I really enjoyed it.
Bobby?
Yeah, I agree. I think they humanize Carol more, because Carol, in all of her previous MCU appearances, has been this outsider, alien, super serious, almost off-putting to people, not trying to be close to people. So I think as she learns, because she has that personal relationship with Monica, and then the hero worship from Kamala, those two things kind of soften her to where, because at the beginning of the movie, they are an annoyance to Carol. But by the end of it, these are her partners. These are her friends. She and so I agree. So I think, yes, I love Monica. I've been a Monica fan for years. I think Tiona Paris does a fantastic job of bringing her to life. But you're right. I don't think the movie would have been quite as entertaining without Kamala and her family. Kamala really brings that, because so many superhero movies are so ultra serious, that she gives it the joy of having superpowers. Not all, so many movies, superpower. Oh, I got superpowers. Oh, it's the end of the world. And, woe is me. This is a curse. And she is like thrilled at all the stuff and that excitement. As a moviegoer, I felt it watching. I felt her excitement. And so I would say Kamala's probably the MVP of the movie for that.
Okay. Daniel?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Kamala Khan as Marvel is my favorite comic book character, full stop. I mean, as Bobby was saying, it's so refreshing to have a superhero who isn't, with great power comes great responsibilities. Oh my God, did you see that? That was awesome. Yeah. Oh, look how big I can make my... just... and especially in the earlier comics where she was going around shield bases going... just
her reaction to seeing Nick Fury, I thought was,
Yeah, absolutely. And... I love her so much just as a character. And I was a bit nervous when they were making the television show, because they could have done that thing of making it a bit too serious, because previously you'd had in terms of television series, obviously you'd had the Defenders ones, but they weren't but you'd had WandaVision, very serious, Falcon Winter Soldier, very serious, Loki, very, very, and I was like, no, please, 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 and they kept that joy and that life. And I could just watch anything Ms. Marvel for days. I mean, I bought an entire tarot deck of cards simply because, and I think Kyoko said it, because Kamala's one of them, and guess which one she is? She's the sun.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a role-playing game which I use with clients a lot, which has recently come out, that's got something like 150 different playable characters, one of whom is Ms. Marvel. Guess who I played when I first played this game? I just love the character so much, and the fact that, as we're saying, Iman Vellani is Kamala Khan. The rest of the film could have been anything, frankly, and I would still have gone and watched it and loved every minute of it. But yes, the interactions, oh my God, we're a team. Just heartwarming, lovely, and I am very much succumbing to superhero fatigue, but the great thing about this film was it felt like its own self-contained arc. Mm-hmm. Yes, it touched on other things, and we saw the teaser at the end, but even though it dealt with big cosmic events, it was still very self-contained, and that just meant that we could turn our brains off and enjoy these characters. So yeah, and Tiona Paris, I mean, I think I'm in love, and and as you say, they humanized Carol. Sorry.
No, Robyn said me too.
I'm in love with Tiona Paris as well.
And because Captain Marvel in her own film, we didn't really get to know her much, and just seeing a bit under the surface and that glimpse of life alone on a ship right at the very beginning, we can relate to her a bit more now, which was missing previously. So sorry, long-winded answer. I love Kamala Khan so much I get too excited. Sorry.
Right, not a problem. Well, I'm going to swim against the tide and say that my favorite is Carol, because I gravitated to Carol when her book came out, despite the truly cringeworthy marketing slogan of "This female fights back." And I looked at that and I thought, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. And apparently they weren't. But I really liked the character. But I agree that she was not, and I think she's my favorite because she was the one I knew first. And I tend to be like that. My Trek will always be original Trek. My Superman artist will always be Kurt Swan. My Superman in the movies will always be Christopher Reeve, because I'm just like that. But I totally agree that having Monica and Kamala in the movie added depth and texture. And that scene between Monica and Carol, the "why didn't you come back" scene. Mm-hmm. There's not enough stuff like that in comic books, in my opinion. And I liked the fact that they took these people. Now, granted, we saw Tiona Paris in WandaVision and Iman Vellani in
Miss Marvel.
And her costume's a little bit like the black Carol Danvers costume, with the lightning bolt across the chest and then down.
And the sash, yeah.
Yeah, but they resisted, thank goodness, the incessant urge to do an origin story for everybody. It's like, if I see Bruce Wayne's origin story one more time, I'm leaving. I don't know, because
it's been done to death. That Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, 3 of the ones. It's like, I don't care what we do in the future. Don't show it again. Everybody has this memorized. We already know. So just keep going.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Bruce Wayne, was he the one who trod on a snail?
No, he's secretly Plastic Man.
Oh, there you go. See, I knew I was missing something.
Yeah. And I think for me, that was one of the best things about the movie, is they just took it as written that we all knew who these characters were, and they went from there.
I mean, to be fair, though, the reason they could do that was because they had given them all an origin story already.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. But on the other hand, Superman's been around since 1937.
Yes.
And I think most people on the planet, at least in the industrialized world, know who Superman is. And
I think we've all seen Krypton explode, the Waynes die, and Uncle Ben died like 100 times.
100 times by now.
Yeah.
I call them like the LeBron James of like superheroes, where it's like, you don't have to know basketball to know who LeBron James is. Mm-hmm. You don't have to know superheroes to know who Batman and Superman are. They're just like...
Because they've kind of become like a pop culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've never read a comic book, you know who Superman is.
Yes.
You know?
And if you like Teyonah Parris, there was a video that came across on Twitter of the day she had her fitting for her Monica Rambeau suit. And she is so over the moon and excited that I'm just watching her, because she was having such a great time with it. Oh. And, stop and think about it. If you got a cool superhero suit to wear, wouldn't you feel that way?
Absolutely. I mean, they've joked about before, sometimes when they're in interviews, people ask them, do they get to take the suits or the props home? And some of them have really funny answers. Like, I love that Hemsworth was like, no, I just took it.
Yeah, exactly.
They told me to give it back. He's like, nah, I just took it with me.
Yeah. And I wonder how many of them just took it with me that don't fess up to it.
Oh, yeah. I think they should be allowed anyway. I was going to say, I am the character. Why should I not have a Mjolnir at home or Shield or my... I think they deserve them.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of touched on this already, but I'd like to know what everybody's favorite part of the movie was. Robyn, will you start?
Oh, man. Part of me kind of feels like, well, two, I guess, if that's okay. One, the musical planets. I love musicals, and my one of my best friends and I, we always drive down to Dragon Con together, and it's car ride karaoke the whole way. She is suffering through me singing like show tunes and stuff. So when they had that musical planet, I was like, oh, it's my second home. And then like the fight scene at the end where everybody was like getting gobbled up by flurkins and stuff. I was just like, oh, that is so adorably gross. It was just so ridiculously fun. So those two.
Okay. David, what about you?
I love the training montage with the Beastie Boys and the Intergalactic. But the kitty cat lifeboat scene is, especially because they used Memory from Cats as the music for it. It was just so perfect. And like she said, so gross and wonderful. But yeah, I loved the training montage of the three of them and the jump rope. Like now she won't jump in. Like, I was that kid on the playground.
I was going to say, people don't realize how hard double dutch is. I couldn't do it either. And I had people teach me. I don't have the dexterity. It is way harder than it looks.
Have to leap in and pick up the thing in mid. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no. But I loved the training scene.
Okay, Kyoko?
I think it's a tie for me between the training scene and the fight scene after. So like on the music planet, but after the music, which I did love, by the way. Oh my God. I had to like cover my mouth because I wanted to squeal and disturb everyone around me because I was like, oh my God. Anyway. But yeah, the fight scene where they're constantly swapping while she's fighting the villain, I thought that was so well choreographed. It was creative and interesting visually, and just I thought it was so cool because it really gave them all a chance to just shine, and each together and apart is what I really enjoyed about it, is that nobody to me felt like they were overshadowed. in their abilities and the stuff that they were doing. So I just thought it was such a well done scene and really one of the better fight sequences or creative fight sequences that we've had.
Bobby?
I think that the beginning fight scene where they're first swapping bodies and don't know what's going on, when they're swapping locations, there's just a frenetic energy about it that, you know, it's mirrored in the fight scene later when they've learned how to control, you know, kind of control it. But the looks that the characters all have when it's like, you know, that I don't know what's going on, or why am I here, or, you know, suddenly I'm facing off against whatever. There's just a frenetic, the way it's shot and the way it's acted, that just I love it. And of course it kind of culminates with Kamala seeing the Flurkin for the first time in Goose, you know, and that, oh my God, you know, that is just that is an awesome scene. You know, so that was just a lot of fun for me. And I also loved, as brief as it is, seeing the Supreme Intelligence as the giant floating head, because we didn't get that in the first one.
Yeah.
You know, it looked like Annette Bening in the first one. You know, now we got to see it for at least a brief moment, how I had always seen it in the comics.
Yeah. Daniel?
Yeah, I think all of the really good, the best ones have been taken. I liked individual moments more than the individual scenes. So, like the training montage, I loved, but my favorite part was that bit. So 1, 2, 3, go. Why would you say on 3 and then say go? You know, and then the soul. Oh my God! And then there was this. I was in this spaceship, and then there was this cat, and this is what. So, you know, just the poor girl was just freaking out, and her parents going, "Yeah, go on." So the cat ate him, and you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm so happy for you. Where's my daughter? You know, just I think too many to count, but also everything that everybody else has said. You know, like, oh yeah, don't worry, he's bilingual, he can talk. You know, it's just there's been a big debate, especially amongst the grumpy old internet men, saying, oh yeah, they need the Marvel dialogue is nothing but quips, and it's like, no, this is how humorous dialogue can be done well. But
they're quips with meaning.
Yeah,
then they mean something. They're not. It would be different if. Yeah, it would be different if. Yeah,
I was going to say, you can feel the difference between, because, for example, the one that I would use as a bad example of that is Ant-Man 3. So the scene after MODOK dies, they're standing over his still warm corpse, and at least one joke happens. And I was like, so am I the only one who thought that was inappropriate? Why are you acting? I mean, again, we don't care about him, but it still was like, it was just the wrong place to put anything quippy of like, I get that. No, he was not important and he's not part of our crew or anything, but he did still give his life to try and help. So can we get like a tiny bit of respect? And they just kind of put it there like he didn't just die in front of them. So like also, that to me is an example of like, that's how you do it poorly. Marvel has done much better with the Marvels.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I forgot to mention the fact that Kamala's dad is in a space station and is trying to sell insurance.
It was so cute.
Loved it.
Andrea, what about you?
My favorite parts of the movie were any parts that featured Park Seo-joon. He played the singing king on that singing island. I can't remember what it was called, but I'm a huge fan of K-dramas, and I'm a huge fan of eye candy. So seeing him with his long dark hair and his cute little tight suit, it just made my day. Just made the movie for me.
Worked.
I gotta say too, Carol's Disney princess dress in that was pretty cool too.
So I already have it saved. You will be seeing me in that dress at Jordan Con. The very second she wore that dress, I was like, that is mine. I don't care who I have to pay, who I have to kill. That's my dress.
Kyoko, I want photographs.
Oh, you know it's happening. So just know, guys, tune in on April 19th. You will see me in that dress.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with what everybody has said about these parts of the movie just being wonderful. But for me, going back to something Daniel said near the beginning, it's the humor, because you don't really get sustained humor in a superhero movie. And humor, as you all have said, can point up character as well. And I think it was Bobby who said that Carol really has an arc. If it wasn't Bobby, I apologize to whoever did say it, because I confused, obviously. But she changes in the course of the movie. And I think it's the nature of the other two characters that leads to that change. And they all kind of grow in the course of the movie. And I was a geek girl. I read comic books when no other girls I knew read comic books. And I would totally have been Kamala Khan about being like Wonder Woman or Elastigirl or Saturn Girl, although how telepaths keep from going insane, I don't know. But yeah, I related to that bit about that character, and the humor that threads through. I think a lot of it emanates from her. And to me, it's a cut above most superhero movies because humor adds depth and it adds layers, and you don't usually get that.
Well, also, at this point too, Carol has been by herself for a few years because she left Earth after Endgame. So she's been on her own with no other human contact. Obviously she runs into people, but that can really isolate you, make you less willing to talk and open up to people. And so
she was leading a team.
Yeah.
It just consisted of Goose.
Well, Goose really is all you need.
That did just remind me, though. I really did love the Valkyrie cameo because I wasn't spoiled for it. So then, like, the Asgard thing goes, and I go, ah! I absolutely love. And it was funnier because I was like, oh, so cool. And then I got out of the movie and I went, you know what? Now I just remembered why it was Valkyrie. A whole bunch of people shipped the two of them after Endgame, and they were throwing them a bone. I went, oh, that's so cool, because I remember the actors really wanted to do a project together, but scheduling, timing, and then whatever the general MCU timeline is made it a little hard. So it was really cool that they were able to fit it in, and it totally made sense to the plot. So that was such a nice little cute thing.
It was adorable. Just the way they just gave each other a hug, said hi. It was sweet. It was
simple and sweet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but there's a deleted scene with more about it. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
David, what did you say?
There's a deleted scene with more Valkyrie that they just released this week. So
is there indeed?
Yeah, it's up on Tumblr already. So yeah, if you just type the Marvels, it'll show up in a little gift set, because I saw it literally earlier today.
Well, and they have really good chemistry in that small scene. I would hope that at some point we do see them together again.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Well, someone I know who saw the movie and liked it a lot said, I really liked the movie. I thought it was terrific, including the campy bits. Do you agree or disagree that there are campy bits? David, will you start?
Well, I think Robyn was trying to say something before I do.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I was just going to add to the hype around a shipping of Valkyrie and Carol. And I think those actresses, when that movie came out, when the first Captain Marvel movie came out, they were shipping them hard on Twitter. And I was kind of here for it because, like, I definitely was shipping Carol and Maria. And of course, we know Maria's like kind of gone. And so then when they were shipping Carol and Valkyrie, I was like, I'm here for it. So, Bobby, when you said you want to see them together, I want to see them together.
So, yeah, I think the movie has some camp, and I think it's perfect. Again, it's a superhero film. I think I hate it when media takes itself far too seriously, and I thought they did such a great job of balancing the humor and the camp with the serious tones of Carol's redemption or attempt to redeem herself. after the consequences of her actions, which the ramifications of that was really interesting. Again, you contrast the fact that she destroyed something that she considered evil that had been controlling her without fully understanding the long-term effects of it, which are coming home to roost now. It's a very heavy theme. And then you counter that with the fact that we have the wonderful musical Planet and the silly headdress where she walks in to be the princess. I just think it was a perfect movie. I think they balanced all of it really well. The only thing is I'm a little bit with Robyn. I could use a little bit more of the LGBTQ representation in. I'm hoping that we see that the Young Avengers are coming, that we get to see that the film obviously hinted towards that. And then, other than the whole bit with Monica at the very end, I thought it was a perfect movie. And the only thing there is just the loss. And because I love Monica that much.
Okay. Kyoko?
I thought the camp was fantastic. Like I said, I had to suppress my squealing when the music number started. I thought it was so fun and so interesting and so creative. It let them do something that prior to this point, we haven't really gotten to see a whole lot. And so I love the lighter side of things. I just the other day, I was talking to my friend about, I can't stand this whole dour, incredibly serious crap that we have to go through. Most of it is still coming out of DC because DC doesn't learn anything for some reason. But I wanted it to be we needed that tone. We needed a relief movie where you just went. I was one of the reasons actually I was talking to him about why No Way Home made all that money, is that we were in a place where we were all exhausted and we were still like halfway through the pandemic and all these other things. And so to have something where it's a nice movie where you feel great things and you see nostalgic people that you haven't seen in 20 years. I think that's what this is a sigh of relief. You just get bright colors and funny lines and creative fight sequences and again, a musical number. I certainly didn't expect that when I saw it in the trailer. When I saw them in the trailer dancing, I just assumed they were dancing. So I think it really works. And I think it works with these characters. For the most part, the MCU usually knows where to put the jokes. They try not to put it somewhere where it doesn't fit. And so this was a really good example of like where it fit and where I think it is. The writing and everything lined up really, really well with the actors, especially their chemistry. And so it really made it just its own distinct thing. I really don't think that there's a lot of films in this whole series that ended up the way that this one did. And I agree with David. I didn't like that Monica had to sacrifice herself at the end. I thought that was kind of shitty, but we also know she's not going to stay there forever. Obviously we've got some cataclysmic stuff coming up in phase 5 and 6. So, she'll be back shortly here, but yeah, I was a little let down by that too.
Can I also just add something, piggyback on something you said too? The humor is so important to this film and it never punches down. And that's so critical when you compare that to something like Guardians of the Galaxy where Gamora gets called a whore. Like it's so refreshing that it was female led, but the humor in this never punches down. And it's funny. Like we go to a musical plan and it's kind of silly and kind of and we're laughing, but at the same time, we're not making fun of musicals or people who sing. Like I just loved that about the humor.
It's a positive tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what we really enjoyed about it. It's such an uplifting, positive, heartwarming movie. I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah. And we keep calling this a superhero movie. Really, at the end of the day, this is a sci-fi adventure.
True.
That really is what this is. It just happens to be with people with superpowers. It reminds me of the adventure movies that I love. I love a good, we gotta go do this. We gotta go find this MacGuffin or stop whatever. But it's not about always what you're trying to solve. It's how we get there. And in this movie, seeing the characters on their journey is just amazing. And seeing them come together, learn to work together. That fight scene at the end where they have now figured out how to use this problem to their advantage and, are yelling out, okay, switch, so they know what they're doing. I love watching that. I don't mind I am not a fan of musicals. The Musical Planet did not bother me. But it wouldn't have been my first choice, but it's, as far as camp, I mean, we've got cats running around eating people. So yes, there is some camp to it, but it's enjoyable camp.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, it very much has the old 60s Batman television series vibes. It wasn't taking itself seriously. It knew that some of the stuff it was doing was ridiculous, but it did it anyway because it was enjoyable. There was nothing mean-spirited about it. It invited you to laugh with it, not at it. And yeah, as Bobby was saying, cats ate people. There was a planet all about where everybody sings to talk. If you wanted to put a dictionary definition of camp into a film, that would be it. But again, it succeeded because it was self-aware enough just to go, yeah, this is ridiculous and we're going to enjoy it. And so many writers at the moment are very self-conscious of using humor, and it's like, yeah, that was funny, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, funny. Yeah, was that funny? Or they take cheap shots and go, what an idiot, am I right? And here they were confident enough to go, no, this is funny, let people enjoy it.
Yeah, and not only were we keep saying cats were eating people, we keep forgetting to mention cats were vomiting people.
That as well, yes.
And I think that really added to the humor of what could have been a very disgusting, plot point.
Yeah. Andrea, what did you think?
Well, I am sort of a expert and lover of drag queens, drag artists, drag performers. And I can tell you that superheroes are drag performers. Batman is the best representation of a drag queen on this planet. If you threw Batman in a nasty little 5-inch heel boot, he would be working. And I can say that camp and drag go together completely. So anytime I see superheroes, anytime I go to see a superhero movie, I expect to see camp, and the Marvels delivered.
Okay. Robyn?
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that has already been said. Andrea, what you just said about Batman, I was thinking about that. I was like, yes, because Bruce Wayne is like a master of disguise and master of costuming. And then he is also a master of weapons. If you put him in 5-inch stilettos, he is going to know how to work that heel as a weapon. But if anybody has seen any of my previous ConTinual panels, you know that I love cutesy stuff. I love campy stuff. And kind of like Danielle said, they found joy in it. And as you guys were talking, it kind of struck me that in the first Captain Marvel movie, part of the complaint was that Carol was too serious. And now you have one where it's like just campy and joyous, and people are still like, oh, it's too campy. And it's just like, Lord, can we not make you people happy?
Yeah,
No.
I think there was a whole segment of people that were going to hate this movie.
Oh, yeah.
This movie could have given you a gold brick when you walked into the theater, and they would have found a reason to hate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think one of the things that made them mad at Brie Larson was when all the criticism, oh, she's too serious. And, in that scene in Captain Marvel where the guy tells her she should smile and she crushes his hand, I know women in the theater, and I was one of them, who are going, you go, girl.
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened. I cheered because I swear to God, if not every woman, close to every woman has had at least one guy she's never met in her life come up to her and tell her to smile. Almost every single woman I know in my entire life has had that happen. So for it to be in that movie, I don't care that other people were annoyed by that. It was like, thank you for just giving us that moment of relief, because every one of us gets angry when some guy walks up to you and tells you how your face should look.
Yeah. And then she responded by doing a montage of movie posters of the guys with big grins on their faces.
Yes.
And I thought some people on Twitter were going to have their heads explode from that.
That was a perfect response, because somebody went and photoshopped all the guys into having smiles. And they're like, now look at how ridiculous this would be if you took the standard that you decided for Carol and applied it to all of the male heroes. They look silly, don't they? Leave her alone.
It's kind of like they did the Avengers poster that way, because in the original poster, the Black Widow is the only one where you can see her butt because the way she's got her turn. So someone went and did it where she's standing straight and all the guys are twisted in. Yeah.
Total segue, but adjacent. Has anyone seen the Hawkeye Initiative, where they redraw the covers with like sexy?
Yes, I have. That was genius.
Ridiculous, sexy costumes and poses.
Yes, that was so cool. So he's absolutely right. There is, if you go look it up, there was somebody who took a bunch of comic book, all the male characters, and put them in the position that the women are on the front of comic book covers, and the result was hysterical. It was showing what a double standard there is for the fact that all the women always have to be sexy, but the guy can just look however he looks on front of the cover. So that was awesome. Except for Nightwing. I was going to say, Nightwing is the exception. Nightwing is a hoe, and so you will see his butt every time. Yeah. But that's okay. We love that he's a hoe.
Well, the proper term for Nightwing is community.
Oh, there we go.
We do try to keep the language PG on here.
My bad.
I have a different take on it, because for many years I worked in a male-dominated profession. And a lot of women in that profession, all the guys talked about was their boobs or their butts. And so when I see people doing that with a character, it feels minimizing to me because of the context I've heard other comments like that in. And I know there are people who love Nightwing's butt, and that's fine. I'm not saying anybody who does is awful people, but I think it does, that kind of things can sometimes have that effect with it. But I think the humor in this movie really did. It's not "you should smile more," but it's "look how much fun we're having." And yeah, it was campy, especially, I mean, the cat's vomiting people up. I mean, you just got to either go with that or you got to hate it. I mean, one way or the other. But when getting back to what Kyoko was saying about stances, if you look at a lot of comic book covers and a lot of women comic book superheroines on social media, they are standing in a way I have never seen an actual living woman stand, so that both their busts and their back ends are protruding. And I would like the artist to stand that way for 20 minutes and see how that feels, and then go into a fight standing that way. You just go right ahead with that and see what happens to you. So
the worst offenders for that are Dynamite Comics.
Oh, really?
I was going to say Rob Liefeld. Oh, my God.
You know, Red Sonja, Vampirella, just...
Well, and
have you guys heard of Xenoscope? Oh, my God.
That one I hadn't heard of.
But they're also, I mean, from just a storytelling standpoint too. I mean, you can't do much in certain like drawn costumes. So I love the fact too that like in the movies, Carol for many years wore basically a swimsuit with a sash.
Cut very high at the leg.
Yeah. And that the movies aren't trying to replicate that.
Yeah,
that they're giving them actually, something they can wear, something that
it's like, and it's cool because it's blended. It seems to imply like it's blended with armor, like it's a type of like armored suit. That's what I really loved about these in particular for this film, is how much they look like it not only it doesn't look ridiculous. It looks like it fits within what they're doing, and I thought that was so cool.
And even Monica's even kind of looks similar to her comic costume, though more updated, because her costume is very much a reflection of the era she was created in.
It was very 80s, the 80s. Afro and the little thing.
The big sleeve, So, but what they give her is reminiscent enough that if you are a fan of that, you can tell that they've tried to get it close.
Yeah. Well, there's something that we have not talked about that I want to be sure we touch on, and we're actually coming up on time. What did you think of Dar Bent, the villain? Kyoko, will you start?
Oh, I'll be the negative Nelly. I didn't care about her one bit. Some of it is my lingering resentment for the actress, but that's not fair, so we're not going to go on that part. I thought she was fine. She did what she needed to do. She had a good motivation. But the part itself to me was very similar to Ronin of like, we just need a one-dimensional bully. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. We don't really, I didn't, based on what the movie was giving to us, we didn't particularly need her to be like super in-depth type of bad guy. It was just like, nope, I am trying to save my people, but also I don't listen to anybody about how I should do that. I'm angry at the whole universe and I'm angry at Carol. So I've chosen the most destructive way to accomplish that goal. The one thing I will say though, the only thing I didn't like about the movie was the fact that it kind of was a what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not a Deus Ex Machina, but the resolution was stupid to me. I was like, wait a minute. All she had to do was go back in there and reactivate their son. Nobody thought of that in the 3 years that their whole planet was dying. That's stupid. I'm sorry. In a movie that I absolutely love, that was stupid. I don't understand how that just never occurred. Now, if they had just given us a line about Carol being like, no, I'm aware of that, but I thought it would kill me if I did it, or something to that effect to explain why she didn't just go do it. Because literally she just flies up, does it, and the movie's over. And I was like, the hell didn't you do that? But we wouldn't be here if you had just done that 2 years ago. But anyway, sorry, going back, villain, fine, but I have zero opinion of her at all. I just, she was there to do a thing and she did the thing and that was fine for me.
Okay. Bobby?
Yeah, I agree. The villain was important because you needed a villain to get the other stuff to happen. You needed a villain that was a reason for them to get together, to have the characters have this adventure. The villain, it could have been almost any villain, but she was not that well developed. Like when you get into the things like Infinity War and Endgame, Thanos was very important. They gave Thanos more to do. Thanos became more of an important villain. I think in the TV versions, like Kingpin, they really give Kingpin stuff to do. They give him reasons. Darben did not really have that. I mean, she had a reason, but it could have been anybody, she wasn't integral as the villain. And but she was fine, but she just wasn't a spectacular villain.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, I think the most telling part about Darben is none of us mentioned her until you asked the question. Yeah,
I didn't know her name until you guys said it aloud. Thank you, because I didn't know it.
I'm just going, I knew the name entirely. Thanks, Nancy.
Well, I actually had to Google it before I asked the question. So,
I mean, that says everything, really, doesn't it? She out of the film, she just was the least memorable, and I've got to say, I've never heard of the concept of that blowing up a computer, even if it's super intelligent, is going to destroy a sun. But hey, yeah, she was a MacGuffin, really. She, as Bobby was saying, she could have been anything, and it would have been fine. The only thing we needed from her, or the MCU needed from her, was a way to open dimensional gates so that a certain post-credit scene could take place. And once that's, and a way of getting Kamala involved, okay, so there's another band. Let's go and find the bangle. Left no impression when so much other stuff did.
I almost wonder, could the villain have been better if we'd have got one of the surviving Kree people from the first movie? Like if Jude Law had been the villain here, he would have had that time. Could that have been better?
I thought it was weird that he wasn't there. So actually, yes, I do think it would have brought it home a little more, because even though we kind of only lightly know who he is, we did get a feel for the guy in the first one. So had they decided to make him the one doing all that stuff, I do think it would have come across a little better and more memorable. Sorry,
those characters had that history, at least, there was something,
Anybody else want to speak to that before we move on?
I would have switched her out for Phyla Vell, who is known in the comics. She uses the quantum band, so you've got a relationship there. And I think the trick to that would have been to have the moment where she could have turned back to good, but she chooses not to. Then I think it would have been more interesting if she had, right? And then saw what Monica sacrificed. And but I do like a villain who's doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. And I kind of agree with, if I could have asked for anything, it would be a little bit more in the movie, because it was a really short movie, and just even a bit more development so that we did find her more memorable. And I think making her Phyla, somebody who we know from the comics, who's got a relationship to the quantum band, and then maybe is kind of parallels Carol's own attempt to redeem herself, realizing what she's done to these planets. I think that could have been a cool way to handle it.
Andrea?
I have the same sentiment that everyone else has. This is going to sound harsh, but I kind of just think that the author is married to a very big actor in the MCU, and he wanted her to have a job. The movie didn't spend enough time developing the character at all. I didn't hate the character. I knew what she was doing was bad, but I felt like there should have been more time and more content developed into making the viewer really hate her, because I think that that's what makes a villain fun. I think that's what makes a villain memorable, is how much the audience can hate them, but still see them as this complex character who may have a point about why they're doing what they're doing, but at the end of the day, you still walk away from the movie hating them.
I think that's a great point, especially considering how much I despise Thanos, because the amount of trauma that, I mean, to my knowledge, you guys can correct me if you know another character, but literally he traumatized his entire universe, all of it. Every single person that was in it was affected by what he did in some way, even if it wasn't directly on them. So like the anger that I feel, probably as someone who's in therapy and that kind of stuff, was just like, thank you for giving every single person in the whole MCU trauma. None of them asked for that, dude. So it was like, the hatred I have for him is unparalleled.
But they also, with Thanos, gave you at least a smidgen where you felt sorry for him.
Yes, because you could tell when he did that to Gamora, he actually believes that he loves her. That is what in his brain is how he quantified love. He thought that he was doing A, the right thing, and B, he thought that's how I showed that I love someone else. I sacrificed them to screw the entire universe.
Right, because in his mind, he is the hero of this story. He is trying to save the universe. It's how he's going about this, wackadoodle. But
absolutely.
I don't think we get that with Dar-Benn. We don't really feel sorry for her. We don't, they could have made it so, because of this devastation that Hala went through, we could have felt sorry for her at some point, and then we didn't quite get there.
Yeah, all they did is they showed us a little bit when the water came back, and that's where I think the movie definitely needed to spend a little bit of time. Absolutely. We should have gotten like a decent, it didn't have to be long, it could be about 5 to 8 minutes, but I think they really should have stopped right there at the planet and shown us what they went through so that we would understand a little bit more, and it would humanize her just a little more if we had, in that scene in particular, taken just a little bit of time.
Yeah, Robyn, let me get Robyn's thoughts before she hasn't weighed in yet.
I agree in general that Dar-Benn was pretty much just a plot device, but I also wonder if giving her a more fleshed out story would have changed the tone of the movie. And so maybe that was why the writers' room decided to basically just use her in that fashion. We have had some examples of where you have a villain who is well fleshed out, but you still have a joyful movie. The prime example that I can think of that is Black Panther, but I feel like that's also a rarity because Black Panther didn't have the even though it had a lot of joy, it didn't have the camp that this movie had, and to kind of balance a very serious, a tonally serious villain against something that was campy may have felt like the pieces didn't connect.
The Incredibles managed it.
Yeah, or to me, the first Guardians was a pretty decent balance between haha funny, and then every once in a while it will go back into dramatic, but typically they, for the most part, they knew not to mush them together. Like they gave you breathing room in between a joke and in between a serious scene. Whereas here, I think you're right. I think maybe they were afraid if we humanize her more, it'll bring the room down a little. So they kind of made her a little more like Ronan, where it's like, no, you know enough about her, and that's all you get. You don't really need more than that. And in order to
she's the bad guy. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Well, we are actually at time.
Can I just add one more thing?
I was about to say, is there anything anybody wants to mention before we close? So that's your cue, Daniel.
Because I just love how they casually introduce the fact that there's an orbital elevator in the MCU now. You know, it's just a thing. That there is now a tower that reaches up to space.
Arthur C. Clarke wrote a story about a tower that reached up into space decades ago. It's a long one. But yeah, I thought, wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and nobody's mentioned this, and you know, so okay, yeah, shield and sword, secretive organization. Sorry, guys, there's no way you can hide that thing. And also, how?
Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything else before we close?
I didn't get the chance to do it when I introduced myself, but I am the writer of a Kindle Villa. It's called Rabbit Grove. It's a mystery. It's sort of like Murder, She Wrote. That's like supernatural. And I'm going to leave the link in the chat. And thank you guys all so much.
Well, unless anybody else has anything, then we'll do our roundtable and close. Okay. Well, then please tell people where they can find information about you and your work. If you have a recent, new, or upcoming release that you want to highlight, this is a great place to do that. And Bobby, will you start?
Sure. I'm Bobby Nash. I write all kinds of stuff, as I mentioned. BobbyNash.com is the website. I'm on all the socials. All the links are on BobbyNash.com. I wrote a 6-book comic book series for kids for an educational publisher called Crimes in Time that just came out. It's crime fiction set during historical events, and I have some little quick covers there. But they're for libraries, so check your local library, ask them. Local libraries, high school libraries are going to have them, but you can buy them as well. But they're mainly targeted to libraries, and it's the first thing I've written in quite a long time that's aimed at younger audiences. And so yeah, usually my stuff is more adult violent, and so it was really cool. And so I'm very proud of them. They look beautiful. But that's me. Yeah, if you see me on social media, stop by and say hi.
Okay. Daniel?
Yep. You can find me at www.monomythcounseling with 2ls.co.uk. So if you want some RPG therapy, or you just need a therapist who'll make fun of you whilst you're talking, you know, give me a call. I'm there. I've also recently had a book out called Role-Playing Games in Psychotherapy, a Practitioner's Guide, which has its own little RPG mechanics, lots of role tables to help you create your own storylines, even teaches you how to draw a fantasy map. And I'm also on YouTube. I've got my own channel, The RPG Therapist, which as of, I think it's either going to be this week or next week. We haven't decided yet. We're going to start doing actual plays of RPGs and talking about their therapeutic values. And we're going to be starting off with the Avatar Legends starter set. Oh my god, I can't wait. It's going to be so epic. Chaos.
Okay, Andrea?
Yeah, as I said, I am the writer of Rabbit Grove. You can find that on Amazon. Just look for at the top of the screen. It will say Kindle Unlimited. Click on that. It'll take you to Kindle Villa. You can also find me on Instagram under the DFCM. And you can also find my writer page on Instagram. It's I believe it's just at Andrea Maldonado. And yeah, thank you guys all so much. This was lovely.
Well, thank you for joining us. Robyn, what about you?
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Diversity Issues Podcast, and also online at diversityissues.libsyn.com.
David?
You can find me at davidrslayton.com. Just don't forget the R. You'll find some Florida man types searching for it. I guess my own Flurkin is wanting his dinner, if you can hear that. And my latest book is Dark Moon, Shallow Sea. It's an LGBT main hero in epic fantasy. It's the dark little book of my heart. And I'm mostly known for my urban fantasy, White Trash Warlock, etc. All of that's by Blackstone Publishing, and they're great on audio.
And Kyoko.
Hi, I'm Kyoko M. I have one book coming out with Fall Staff Books sometime in either this spring or summer. I have not been given the go-ahead to say the title yet, so I'm still holding out for Hartness to tell me if I can start blabbing. After that, I will have at least two things in Milton Davis's anthologies. Milton Davis is a indie publisher who you should all know and go grab everything he makes because it's wonderful. And lastly, I will have Captain America, The Shield of Sam Wilson will be out in November unless they delay it because the movie got delayed, I believe. But at this point, it should be out November 19th. And I've got a story in that, as does Dr. Glenn Paris, another one of my colleagues. So I just wanted to give him a shout out as well. But that's me. Oh, and you can find all of my work at shewhowritesmonsters.com.
Okay. And you can always find me here on ConTinual. My website is nancynorthcott.com. And I'm still on X, if, by the time you view this, it's still called that, as at Nancy Northcott. On Blue Sky, I'm at Nancy North. And my upcoming releases are short stories that tie into my various series, 1 historical fantasy and 2 paranormal romances. So White Lace and Magic, First Christmas, and Evil on Twelfth Night. And they're upcoming because I'm behind on the season. So with that, thank you all for participating in the panel. Thanks to everyone who's watching. And thank you to our sponsors, Heroes Aren't Hard to Find and Heroes Convention. For more information about them, visit heroesonline.com.